Good evening and welcome to your mediation. I'd like to first introduce myself. I'm Tara Sears, and feel free to call me Tara for the rest of the evening today. Have you two met before?
Yes.
Do you mind just stating your names and introducing yourself quick?
I'm Tanner.
I'm Gary.
Alright, nice to meet you both. Before we continue, is there anyone else involved in your mediation process that will be joining us here this evening?
No.
Alright. Therefore, you two are the sole decision makers for this mediation process, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just the last few questions. Is the seating and everything comfortable? Temperature? Are you guys comfortable right now?
Yes, I'm
Yes, I'm
comfortable.
fine.
Okay. Very well, let's continue. Here I have your agreement to mediate paperwork, and for us to begin, I must ask that you review this agreement and the other appropriate paperwork that I've given you, and if okay, I'll ask you to sign it. The agreement to mediate provides your consent to begin this process under voluntary circumstances with the intent to resolve this issue. The parties understand that mediation is an agreement-reaching process in which the mediator assists parties to reach agreement in a collaborative, consensual, and informed manner. It's understood that the mediator has no power to decide disputed issues for the parties. The parties understand that mediation is not a substitute for independent legal advice. The parties are encouraged to secure such advice throughout the mediation process and are strongly advised to obtain legal review if needed before signing any agreement. The parties understand that the mediator's objective is to facilitate the parties themselves in reaching their most constructive and fairest agreement. The parties also understand that the mediator has an obligation to work on behalf of each party equally, and that the mediator cannot render individual legal advice. Also, you have agreed the fee will be paid immediately at the end of this mediation session, or if multiple sessions at the end of each session. Do all parties here state their good faith and intention to complete their mediation agreement?
Yes.
Okay. It is, however, understood that any party may withdraw from or suspend the mediation process for any time. I want to make clear that anything said here today among any of the parties and to the mediator myself is strictly confidential. This includes mediation discussions, written and oral communications, or any drafts of resolutions. Any unsigned mediation agreements shall not be admissible in any court proceeding. At this time, I'll ask you to check any last-minute messages on your phones and turn off your electronic devices, as I'd like to not have any interruptions. And if needed, we can arrange a break time for you guys to check any of your messages. We're all here together in what's called the joint session, and we'll remain in the joint session until all opening statements are presented. We may remain after the opening statements in joint session until any member here calls a caucus. A caucus is a private meeting, and again, any of us may call the caucus. If you wish to speak to me privately, or if I wish to speak to you privately, a caucus will be called. If you wish to go to caucus, we will do so immediately. If I meet with one party in caucus, at the conclusion of that meeting, I will meet with the other party. And at the conclusion of those meetings, I will ask if there's anything you wish for me to hold in confidence. Whatever you request that I hold in confidence, it will be done. There may be an inequality of time that I spend in caucus with one person opposed to the other. That does not mean I'm forming any favor or affection for one party over another. The reason for the time difference is that it may take longer to say what I have to say with one party opposed to the other, or it may take longer for them to say what they have to say to me. Also, when caucusing with one party, I may request that the other party use the time to think of some things that might work for you that the other person would not consider. So therefore, when I'm meeting with one person, I'd ask that the other person would try and think of any more solutions or think of questions that they'd like to ask the other party. Consider the following. When I'm caucusing with you, I'll be bringing the message to the other party that you address to me if you do not tell me specifically to keep something in confidence, and the same goes for the other party. Please see me as a messenger and not the message. Also, be aware that negotiating is a give-and-take process, and as such, most people aren't able to get 100% what they want. I really would like to be more flexible, and I request that you try to be more flexible than you are when you first came here today. Personally, I like to think positively about this mediation process, and I invite you to do the same. Maybe you can find common ground and hopefully reach an agreement or clarify to limit the issues that you have to resolve this conflict and move forward. Keep in mind, mediation, you do have 100% control of the outcome. If you do go to court or wish to continue this in any other legal manner, you do begin to lose control. If you reach an agreement or settle any or even some of your issues, which I hope we're able to do in the next hour, which fits your time constraints today, it will be written up in a mediation agreement document that you will sign as evidence of your agreement of the issue and vow to maintain your half of the negotiation. At this time, I'd like for each of you to read your opening statements. In your opening statements, you'll explain your position and concerns of the issue to myself and the other party. During all points of the mediation, I ask you to be respectful and patient for your turn to speak. I'll not allow any interruptions to occur. After the first party's opening statement, I'll ask a few questions in order to clarify what you're expressing, and I'll do this for each party. During your opening statements and perhaps throughout most of the mediation, I may be taking notes. I just want you to know that these are for my own personal benefit, and I assure you that they will be kept confidential or destroyed if they are not needed. Do you have any questions about the mediation process?
No.
Alright, well, if at any point you do have any questions, please feel free to stop me and I'd be happy to clarify them. At this time, I'm going to ask Tanner to state his opening statement.
Thank you, Dad, for agreeing to do this mediation with me. I really hope that we can come to some sort of agreement today. I know that I can greatly benefit from your support, and I strongly feel that this is my opportunity to get my foot in the door. With your help purchasing the home, I will be able to invest in rental property that will continue to return our money. The garage will also really help towards having storage place for me to keep my equipment when I establish my snow plowing business. I will have enough income to not only make payments back to you, but to continue building my own financial stability. I understand that the house needs a little work, but I feel that the location and my and your handiwork can make up for the areas that are subpar.
Okay, so it sounds like you are aware that there are renovations that need to be at the house, and how much additional renovations need to be made for this house to be in a condition that is open for renters.
The roof does need to get replaced, and maybe some little electrical work.
Okay, when do you plan to start your plowing business?
I plan on starting it next winter.
Next winter? Okay, and do you know how much financial help you'll be needing for the down payment alone or any additional costs of renovations?
Yeah, 20% of a down payment would help for mortgage insurance, and that would cut off another $90 per month.
Okay. Do you mind stating your opening statement now?
Okay. I'm glad to be here and grateful to have a chance to have someone help us understand each other's point of view. I do want to be able to help you reach your goals, and I'm hesitant to help you too much, if that is understandable. I know you appreciate my help with the household projects and advice on these areas, but I think you will benefit more by doing this on your own. Being retired, no more money coming in, and we really have to live off of what we have. I'm nervous to invest in rental property to benefit you and weaken my financial state. I think also that this home is something that you are rushing into. If you look around more, and you may find a better deal in terms of price, location, and condition. There's a lot of work to be done, and that is not something I personally want to take on and have to pay more out of pocket to get everything up to standards.
Okay, so you said that you are a little nervous to invest in this rental property. How is paying for a portion of this down payment going to affect you financially? Is this something?
I don't think that's going to bother me a whole lot there. It's the hidden cost I'm more worried about.
Okay, so it's the additional things that the renovations and the outside contractors and the little stuff that you'll slowly find after purchasing the place that you'll end up being stuck with?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any physical or scheduling barriers with having this time commitment of investing in a house?
Well, not a whole, money wise, no. Physically wise, I'm looking at possibly having shoulder surgery this fall, which I won't be able to do anything for 6 months then, so I won't be able to do a whole lot as far as helping with the house.
Okay. And from what I understand, you're newly retired, so you do have more free time to possibly.
I do have more free time now, but I'm also limited to what I can do because of my shoulder.
Okay. So it sounds like there's a few things that you guys are seeing differently. Tanner sees this more of an opportunity for success, and you see it as it does have potential, but there are a lot of other things that need to be considered, like hidden cost. So is that something you guys want to talk about on how you can establish, like, whether this house is a good opportunity or not? And we can almost do like a checklist of, is a roof replacement, is that worth it? Or like, roof, an additional bathroom, or any other kind of household needs. Like, at what point do you, say, no, this house isn't worth it? Is that something you guys feel beneficial if we talked about, how many renovations do we have to make for this home to be worth it? Or, where's the point?
I think we gotta look at that because a house
Okay.
is worth a certain amount right now, and I don't wanna get in above what the house is worth for that area that it's in.
Okay, so one thing that I think is that we could almost work on would you consider having a home inspection before purchasing this property and have almost an expert of some sort come in and decide what needs to be done in order to have this home in the condition that it can be used as a rental property?
Yeah, I think a home inspection would be a good idea just to make sure it's up to codes and
Okay,
it'd be
so
allowed to be rental property.
let me just write that down real quick so we can have that for later notes. So I just want to clarify is that we're going to, before deciding on this house at all, we are going to have an inspection done to see how much work and hidden costs there could be.
Yeah.
Okay, and one thing is, how would you guys like to decide who's paying for this inspection? Is that a cost that you'd like to split, or is that something you'd be willing to pay for just since it's going to be your investment anyways, that it's just kind of like worth it for you to pay for the inspection because it'll end up saving you money? Or is that something you'd like Tanner to pay for? What do you guys think would be fair? There's also the option of asking the homeowner to pay for the inspection.
And I would almost think if anything, the homeowner probably ought to have the house, pay for the house inspection. But if he doesn't, or doesn't really want to, we could do a 3-way, and each one of us pay a portion of it.
Okay, so that's something we can ask the homeowner additionally. I mean, if you guys don't have to pay it all, we can. So I think our first step is to ask the homeowner, will he be willing to pay for an inspection just for our insurance of buying? And that if he says no, we can propose of him paying 33% of a homeowner's inspection. You would also cover 33%, then you would cover the final 33%.
Yes, I would agree to that.
Okay, so that's the first thing. Before buying, have a homeowner's inspection. Home inspection. So our first step would be to ask the homeowner, because if you guys don't have to pay it all, then then 33% would be our agreement if the homeowner decides not to share that. Okay.
If he wants out of it completely, then I guess it would be 50-50.
Okay, is that something you'd be okay with, paying 50/50?
Yes.
Okay, so we kind of have three clauses. First being ask the homeowner, second asking him to pay a third, and the third paying is each of you paying 50%. Okay. So, I guess that by having a home inspection, you guys will both be able to establish who, or not necessarily who, but what is going to be done and what needs to be done. So you're planning for the home inspection to give you kind of a checklist of what needs to be done renovation wise, and would they provide you with the information on the roof needs to be replaced or wiring isn't up to code or insulation and stuff like that?
I would think so.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to get everything looked at price-wise then to get it up to code.
Okay. So, once you guys know what needs to be done in order to have the house up to code, how would you like to plan about going on who's paying for what renovations and how you're going to do them? Is this something you'd want to do on your own, whether it be Tanner, whatever handy skills you have, and you using whatever you're able to do this yourself to save money, or is it something that you'd rather have someone contracted? How would you guys like to kind of solve that area?
I think to save money, if we had to redo the roof, I could maybe tear off all the shingles, but then have someone more in the expertise of roofing to roof it to make sure it was done properly.
So almost do as much as you can to a point.
To my knowledge.
Okay, what do you think about that? I know you say you have more time to be doing stuff, so would you be willing to help arrange with Tanner, getting a dumpster there, or what's going to be needed for all these renovations, tools, equipment, who's going to pay for really what?
Well, I think we need to find out what needs to be done, if we can do it or not, and who we got to have come in and get a bid so we know where we're standing at.
Mm-hmm. So,
as far as
what do you mean get a bid on just the cost of renovation?
Well, on some of the little projects and see what we can cut out of it, but we don't want to get to the point, like I said, where we got too much money in the place and it's not worth it.
Okay, so that's hopefully what we can find answers in the home inspection, because we'll have, a list of things that need to be fixed, and then from those list of things, you'll have to find a contractor or an expert or business or something to give you a bid.
Some things I'll let you do, and other things you're going to have somebody else do it, so you're going to have somebody certified to do it.
Okay, so the things that you are not certified to do, you will have to contract out. And how would you like to do that? Who would be in charge of finding the person to do that work? Who would be in charge of paying that person?
I could find them.
I think we'd have to probably look at a couple people at each instance and get a couple bids so we know what's going on. At least talk to more than one person. Okay,
would it be helpful if you found someone? I know you both probably have connections in the area, and being an already established homeowner, you probably know a plumber and know an electrician and stuff. So you could be in charge of getting one bid, and Tanner could be in charge of getting one bid, and then you guys just kind of meeting halfway in that sense and deciding, who's going to do what based off the price and their work, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so once that's done, who would pay for the work to be done? So you guys both agreed to being responsible for finding someone to do the bid and to do the work, but how would you like to split up the paying? I know that Gary, you would be in charge of the down payment and everything. like that, but would you like Tanner to cover renovations? Or what else do you need financially from Tanner in order to like him to have responsibility of this home as well?
Probably something set up that if we've gotta put more money into it, how it's gonna get paid back in a timely manner.
Okay, that's something that we can address actually. So everything that you will be investing, you want to have back eventually, and would you be willing to set up almost like a monthly payment plan or something with Gary? In that right now he has the financial ability to put in for the down payment and to start getting the ball rolling with renovations as soon as you guys have the bids and the home inspection and all that being done, that you would set up a payment plan, and once you're established and working or whatever, that you could start paying him back as soon as possible, I guess.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, so how much time would you be willing, or what's the soonest that you could start paying him back? Because you want to start your plow business in 2014, so is that something like by next winter you'll be able to like have the money to pay him back, or would you need more time, or just like in this first year when you're not making as much money have smaller monthly payments, and then maybe later on after 2 years time you start making larger payments?
I think that would be a good idea, having the first year smaller payments, and then when 2015 came around, I could make larger payments.
Okay. Would that be something that was okay with you, that while he's still trying to get his own business established and that he needs to be using the financial stuff that he has right now to...
For the business?
Yeah.
I could work with that, yeah.
Okay, so you would allow him to invest his money into kind of setting up his business before paying you back, and that once he has, a better grounds to pay you back, that he would be able to pay back more. And we do that based off a time system, so the first year you'd make a monthly payment of, I don't know what kind of numbers we're looking at here.
And we don't know yet either until we get the full home inspection and how much money we've gotta put out, so.
Okay, so could we almost put like, I don't know if we'd like to quantify that, or if you're both comfortable with not putting an exact number value, but we could say, just like 25% of what you're making now could be a monthly payment, roughly on the work that you're doing now, your minimum wage or something job that you don't have as much money to be giving monthly, but once you're established you would be more comfortable giving 50% of what you make to pay him back or something like that. Is that something like a percentage base that we could kind of put a number on, or is that just something that we'd have to play by ear?
It might have to be played by ear, but probably a percentage would be good. Maybe this year and the next year, maybe increase it by 10 to 25%.
That you'd be willing to like pay back more. Okay, so I guess the big concept is that the first year you'll be paying X amount, and then the second year you'll be paying 2X or something.
Yeah.
Is that you will increase your payments as you start to make more money. Okay. Weather depending. Yes, because with a plowing business you will be dependent on the weather.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, do you want to talk about that at all? Because that's something that could come up, and that sounds like a concern, is that he's investing in a business that is weather dependent. And, this winter we've been pretty plentiful in the snow area, but is that something you'd like to add in a clause that he will still be held responsible for an increased payment no matter what? It's like...
I don't think I would do that. I think we could work something out.
Work something out another way.
Yeah.
and keep the payment low for
Okay.
another year or something.
Okay, so that's
And so
that's
I
good that
can
we
do
mentioned that though. So you do have, a little wiggle room. Is that you will do your best to pay him back as much as you can, as soon as you can. But if cases, if things don't turn out your way, or you have a truck breakdown, or you have to replace this or that, like, he will be understanding of that your business comes first. Okay. Is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about? I think we could almost take a caucus right now if you guys would like to just. I could speak to each of you privately for a little bit before coming back.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
Right.
so how about I talk to Tanner first?
Yep.
Or would you like to take a break? For
I
a
would
little
like
bit?
take a time to think of some questions and figure out my own concerns. Thank you.
Alright, I'll be with you in shortly. So.
Thank you. So I leave now, or?
We can talk for a little bit if you want to take a restroom break or anything, feel free. But I'll have my caucus with you first.
Okay. Oh, we can do
Okay. So, I think we've been able to make a little bit of progress. How are you feeling so far about this mediation process?
that. I think it's working.
Okay. I feel like what I get from you and Tanner is that you do have a pretty good relationship and that you do genuinely care for his success and that you're willing to, invest in him and show that you really care. And I think that's very beneficial for, this negotiation is that you guys do have a good relationship.
I think it does help.
I think it's just see. I think I have a question for you. So with being retired now, you are not having a income as much anymore? Is that correct? Or
Yes.
okay, so with
I'm more of a base pay now, and there's no overtime or anything, so the extra money that I would have is not there anymore.
okay, is that something that worries you in making an investment that you might not see a payback right away? Or is that something that it's just part of?
I guess mainly it's the fact that I'm just getting going on this, and I'm not set up on what I'm really making yet
Mm-hmm.
before throwing a bunch of money out with not a big idea of what my income is going to be.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think it would be beneficial to address with Tanner how much money he'll be making or you'll be making through the rental property itself, and we can talk about how much this 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home is going to be worth monthly?
That is a concern of mine, is what you can get out of it for rent.
Okay. So that's something I can take note of, and we can bring that up to Tanner's that we do need to address that this rental property is an investment and money needs to be coming back out of it, and that we need to know on a monthly basis what this property is going to be making us and if it can even be filled with renters.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other concerns that you had about investing or renovations or just this home in general? Or just Tanner's age, his work commitments, or...
Not that, I guess mainly just the home itself, getting the inspection on it and finding out what's got to be done
Mm-hmm.
and how much money's going to have to go into it to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Tanner's really the entrepreneur type, and that he does find a lot of little projects that he gets attached on. Does that make you nervous in any sense that this is just another one of his little projects that's going to be not something that he's fully committed to?
That's a good question. It's, yeah, because he does change his mind here and there. So, yeah, he's gonna have to stick with it and, or come up with some other way to pay the money back.
Okay. Because this is one of the more, you know, as he's 19 and a college student, he has a lot of other things going on in his life, and that's something that you'd like to talk to him about, is that this is something very permanent and a serious investment in, like, maintaining himself as, like, a business owner almost, in the sense that he's going to be a landlord and in charge of all these things now, so.
And you gotta have a slush fund put away too, so if something goes wrong, you can fix it for the renters right away.
Okay, that is something that we could talk about, is that he needs to be aware of his responsibilities as a landlord now, and the additional money that he'll have to keep aside, like the water heater goes out, that's his responsibility to replace, or
Wow.
the washer floods the basement, and that's something that as the landlord you would be the first one called about that, and that his like conflict resolution skills are going to have to be a lot more demanding than he's ever had to deal with before. Okay, so I think we have some good questions and a more better understanding of some deeper concerns of you. So if you don't mind taking this time to think about more work that we could do or work towards any more conclusions, I think I'd take this time to talk to Tanner for a little bit if you don't mind.
Okay.
Is there anything that you'd like me to keep confidential about?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I'll take this time to speak to Tanner for a little bit now.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good, thank you. Okay, so I just would have to ask you a little bit about any more concerns that you have about this property. Is there anything else that you can think of right now? I know you just took this time to kind of reflect a little bit, and what have you been thinking?
A few concerns, maybe possibly on price, but the homeowner's inspection would help that out. But I also noticed for rental property would be good because Palmer College is pretty close by, Genesis West Hospital is close by, and there are two Davenport schools, the elementary and the middle school, that are right down the street, so I think that would help the rental property potential.
Okay, so it sounds like you're not worried about finding renters or anything like that because you have a good location surrounded by schools, big businesses, a hospital, and that you kind of have an endless supply of renters almost.
Yeah, it is close by a busy street, but I think there is a lot of positives to go with it, but there are a few negatives to take into factor.
Well, what negatives do you see in the property?
It does have a pretty small yard, and there's a busy road nearby, and there's only one bathroom, which some people are fine with that. If it's just a small family, or just one person or two, it would be fine, but any more than three, I think it would be tough, and that would be an extra expense to put in an extra bathroom.
Okay, so we are looking at possibly an added expense for a bathroom, just in order to have a wider range of possible renters. Because, like, what it sounds like you're saying is by having 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, you limit yourself to a smaller family. And if you did have another bathroom, you would be able to have a larger family, and they would probably be happy to have another bathroom and more willing to pay a monthly payment to you that's a little bit higher in order to have a second bathroom.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, one thing that I want to have you start thinking about is how much money do you think is going to come back to you on like a monthly basis as like a rental property? Is there a number that you've thought of, or?
I think we talked to some other renters of people, and they kind of thought it was in the good ballpark of $1,000 to $1,100 of a monthly payment that someone would be willing to pay for that property.
Okay, so you'd see about $1,000 to.
1,100.
Okay.
But if you got Palmer students in there and maybe had 3 Palmer students, I think they would each be willing to pay at least $400 to $450 a piece.
Okay, so as a family, you'd be asking for 1,000 to 1,100.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you had prospects from the nearby college, you'd ask for 400 to 500 per person.
Yeah.
Okay. So it does seem like you could make more money by having college students in there rather than a family.
Yeah, but I think they're maybe a little more harder on things, and there might be maybe more expense when they move out to maybe repaint some walls or something.
Okay. Is there like a system that you'd like to put in place on who should you accept as a renter and who you should not accept as a renter? Or is this just something that you feel like renters are hard to come by and you're willing to take the first person interested?
I think there should be a little system to go by, maybe a background check, make sure they have a good job. Steady employment would definitely be a plus. You don't want to have a renter that can't afford, obviously, where they're staying.
Okay, so proof of employment, background check. Bank statements, possibly. I think that's also.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so that would be a good thing of just kind of like ensuring that you are going to have good people in your rental property and that you won't have to worry about, the place getting trashed, or that the people that you will have in there, they will be liable for any damages that are their fault.
Yes.
Okay, one thing I want to talk to you about is about your responsibilities as a student and worker and entrepreneur. I know that had you feel stressed about adding this onto your plate? Is this?
I don't think it'd be a stress. I think it would be kind of a fun opportunity, more to relieve stress, and working a long day. I think it'd be fun for myself and I'd get enjoyment out of it. So I see it more as a stress reliever, but maybe if you had a bad renter in there, that may add more stress. But
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to clarify. Are you talking about your renovations and just kind of like the little projects and getting this place ready as kind of like a good stress reliever? Or just being a landlord in general?
Kind of a little bit of both, and I think it'd be fun to have a garage spot, a place to work on as my own, that I always can pull a car out, or always know I have a place to work or set something that I get.
Yes, that's right. We haven't talked about the garage spot yet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something I can take note of, because that's something that you would like to keep, correct?
Yeah, that would be out of the rental agreement.
Okay. Okay, is there any questions you had for me further? Anything?
No.
I think we'll let Dad come back down, or Gary come back down, and we can talk a little bit more together and figure out kind of what other things need to be put in place in order for us to figure everything out.
Yeah.
I would like to just thank you guys for, breaking for that caucus and being honest with me and being able to, I think it was very beneficial, and we were both able to really find some more concerns that each of you have and to clarify things a bit further, and come up with a few questions that each of you would kind of like to have answers about. And the first thing, Gary, I'm going to ask you to, do you mind sharing your concern for Tanner's, almost track record for being involved in a lot of different projects and sometimes not always getting finished. Is there anything you'd like to?
Well, he does have a little record, I guess, so that does concern me a little bit, because this is something that he can't just back out of and change his mind right away.
And do you have a full understanding of what you're getting into as a now landlord and business owner? And
Yes, as the market has dropped in the past few years, each year it has been slowly increasing back up, and I think it'd be a good time to jump on it before it increases back up. And I think it was maybe something that I'd want to get out of within a few years. I think there'd be a good potential to get a return on your money.
okay, so you see this as just almost like a 3-year kind of thing, or just while you're finishing up college, you'd like to be a landlord and kind of make this.
Well, I think it could be lifelong, but if it brings too many headaches, I think it could be, or maybe a better place comes up.
That you.
I think, you could definitely get a good return on your money as long as it's brought at the right price, but obviously it depends a lot on what the homeowner's inspection says and what renovations need to be done, but a lot of times the renovations will increase the price of the property.
Mm-hmm. So would you like to just share why you're so, what makes you committed to this property over any other property? I know you mentioned a little bit about the location and the schools nearby. Would you just like to remind Gary of why this property is worth what it is?
Well, it does have a 3-car garage, which is pretty hard to come by, and the garage is heated, and so that would be good for any repairs that maybe need to be done during the snowplow business in between snowfalls or something. I'd have a heated spot to work on a truck or a plow or any potential problem that could occur.
Okay, and what about, I know you said stuff about the location and the schools.
Yes, it does sit in a nice location because Palmer College is close by and Genesis West Hospital, and there's 2 Davenport schools that are right down the street. So I think it would be a good rental property, like location.
Okay, and I know one thing, Gary, you were concerned about is what price we would actually be getting, or what is this place worth monthly. And I know Tanner and I talked a little bit about, do you mind just sharing what a family would have to pay per month versus college students, and just explain to Gary what you'd be expecting to see monthly in return on this place?
I think if a family was in there, you could get $1,100 a month back. If there's college students in there, I think if you had 3 college students, you could each have them pay $400 to $450, and that would equivalent out to $1,200 to $1,400.
So you would be seeing more money in a college student basis.
Yes.
One thing that Tanner and I addressed is the wear and tear on who is going to be your renter, and as like a small family with a younger kid, they won't do as much damage as 3 college boys would do on, walls. And Tanner mentioned maybe having to repaint after, college boys, or replace carpet, holes in the drywall, or, stuff like that. Is that we would like to set in place a system of deciding who is able to rent and who is not able to rent. Is that something you would feel more comfortable knowing that a system would be put in place?
I think that's very important with an investment to look at.
Okay, Tanner and I spoke a little bit about proof of employment and having a background check on all renters, and then also getting bank statements to have, a little bit of financial proof that they're capable of paying their monthly rent. Is that something you'd be comfortable with, or is there anything you'd like to add?
No, that would probably cover a lot of it.
Okay, the only other thing I could think of is, from my experience with rental properties, is I've heard that people having to have references, and perhaps is there anything if they have previously rented somewhere before, is having their previous landlord be a reference, or, an employer or anything like that? Would you like to receive a reference letter stating that?
I think a reference letter would be a good idea, but if not possible, maybe the new renters, we could work with them, maybe have them do a deposit that they would have to put down, and they could get it back as long as they leave the place clean and damage free, and any damage that was done would come out of their deposit before it was given back.
I think that's a very good idea, and I think you show like that you've taken a lot of initiative and thought of that, and that it really is, evident that you really care and you're committed to this. And I think that's something that, are you able to see that he's really thought a lot about this?
I think so. The only thing that kind of might take some of your college kids out of it, because if they're coming in, a lot of them have never rented before.
Okay.
So it's a little tough to get a background on anybody that way, so. And
I mean,
if that's
like
who you end up with.
I mean, I meant background check in the sense of like a legal one, to just as you would have with any job process, or would you like to have like, an interview, or like, almost like a house tour, just to like get a feel of who your renters are before, saying yes, something.
Yeah, I think meeting with them would help, and I think a background check would help knowing if, any previous
Who's
history.
gonna be paying it, if the parents are gonna be paying it, or if they're gonna be liable for it, or.
Okay. So that's something we could almost draft a contract for your renters and have them sign, and so they know they were responsible, and that they'll have possibly a deposit to be made, and they'll have to supply a background check through the police department or anything like that. Is that something you guys would be willing to pay for? Is to pay for the background checks on your prospective renters, just to ensure that.
Yeah, I think if they kind of give references, and if that's what it comes to.
If they're unable to provide references, you will pay for a background check, just to ensure that they are genuinely going to be respectful of your property.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's good that we've established almost a system of renting, and that we can together collaboratively, I think you two could draft a contract for your renters, and it's something that you can work on together. So I feel like it's not really anything that seems that you're afraid of taking on as a responsibility, and I know that you mentioned to me that you were excited, and this is something that you see as a good stress reliever and a good outlet of your energy and time, almost, that you'll be able to have, something to work on and something to call your own almost. And I think that's something that, Gary was concerned about, is that this was something that you were just kind of excited and almost saw like money bags in your eyes, and that it wasn't something that you truly cared about. But I think that you're able to express that this is something that you're committed to.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else that you guys would like to address? Further, do you have any questions? Is there anything that I've missed?
I don't think so, really.
No.
I don't have any more questions.
Okay. Let's talk about, Tanner and I mentioned a little bit about the garage.
Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Tanner and I talked a little bit about the garage, and that it's a place that he will keep separate from the rental property. Is that something you're okay with? Is that you'll be having the rental property being advertised without garage space? Are you concerned about that in any sense?
I think that might bring the value of the renting of the rental property down.
Do you still think that you could get $1,000 a month without garage space, or is that something?
I don't know. That would be something that has to be looked at.
Okay.
Find out what houses are going for around that area.
Is it something you'd want to look into before investing in this property at all? Is that's something you would need to research?
I've already researched it, and it was appraised for $1,000 to $1,100 a month.
The actual home was?
The home without the garage. It has three parking spaces next to the garage,
Okay.
so it does have good parking. It is not under a roof, but without that roof under your spot, it will still could bring $1,000 to $1,100
So there
a
are
month.
3 available parking spots.
Yeah, so 3 spots on the back side of the home with staircases going up to them, and parking in front of the house as well on the street.
Okay, so there is parking. So it wouldn't be that these cars would have to be on the street.
No.
Okay. So I think that's something that, may not affect pricing as much. In the winter months, perhaps, if you're looking for renters, it may be a little bit harder of a selling point. But I think if you're getting renters during the summer months right before school's enrolling, that, it's not a problem for families because they're not even thinking about the winter yet, is that they have 3 parking spots and that's okay with them. Okay, so are you concerned at all about what the garage is going to be used for? Anything with payment on the garage and anything that needs to be done for the garage in order for it to be up to code? Because that's something that sounds like it's going to be your kind of workshop.
The garage is actually pretty well, being with it already being heated and insulating, because that was kind of an important factor with the snow removal business, because then I can work on it without being outside in the harsh conditions.
The only problem I had there was possibly
Electrical.
with overhead lights.
Okay, so that just comes back to maybe our home inspection, is that if something needs to be done in the garage, that it will be your responsibility since it will be your space.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything that you would like, being that you're investing in the home, that you would like use of the garage in any sense, or is that something you're not interested in, being that it is a little bit farther from where we're located?
It could help at times, be able to use a spot there.
Okay, is that something you'd be willing to offer in return for just his support financially initially, in the sense that you will be willing to give him a garage spot if he agrees to paying the down payment? Or is that something that you will just be in debt to him a garage spot until you pay everything back, and then you'll, what kind of timeline would you like to set on a garage spot or use of the garage for both of you?
I think we both could get a lot of use out of the garage, with us being pretty handymen and kind of like to work on cars. I think it'd be a nice workshop for both of us to work on projects together and separately.
So that's just something we can almost play by ear, because right now it's an empty garage, and just when it gets full, then you'll have to decide later on who's gonna move what out in order to make room for something else, or you'll just kind of both compromise when it comes to the garage, just depending on where you're at with your business and what you need to be doing project-wise or what cars you're working on.
Yeah, with it being a 3-car garage, you can't really do it 50-50.
Okay. So
But it does have really tall ceilings, and a lift would be good. And you have 2 shorter cars that could easily be put on the lift, so you could still have 2 cars in there, and I could still have 2 cars in there in the future.
Okay, so it sounds like you guys do have, you've thought about it a little bit, how you'd like to divide the space in the garage, and that is something that maybe we could address at a later time and just wait till after this first winter and see where you're at, or if you have empty space right now, he's welcome to it.
Yes.
And as soon as you start to fill up that space, less of his stuff will have to be in there, almost.
Yeah.
So we could almost start with, right now he has a lot more stuff, and so he would have more of the garage space, being that you just don't have the room for it. But when you need the room, that he will move his stuff out or
Slide.
Yeah, move it from one stall to the other, like reduce 2 stalls of space into one, or that it's something that you won't have to purchase a lift initially, being that you only have 1 truck right now. But when you do have 2 or something, or you need the extra space, that's something that we can just know that it is something that will have to be addressed at a later time, and that you guys are willing to negotiate and compromise and
One of the things that's gotta be looked at is the service to the garage.
service.
Because right now, everything goes to the house for the bill. And if you're gonna rent the house out and keep the garage yourself, you're gonna have to have separate
Separate electricity bills and such a thing.
and gas, so everything, you're paying your own and they're paying their own.
Okay, so is that something that
That's,
the electrical company will do for free is to split the bills, or is that going to be an extra charge per month that you'll have to split the bill?
I don't know what they would get to separate those.
Well, perhaps it'll either be free and they will just willingly allow you to split the garage and house costs and give you a separate bill.
Well, they put in different meters, so they're gonna,
Oh, so there will be.
yeah, there's gonna be some costs there.
Okay, is that something you'd be willing to pay for, since it will be your space indefinitely, and that it's just something that he can use when it's available?
Yeah, I would be fine with that.
Okay, so you will be paying for the
What's
new meter.
It's just something else to find out how much that's gonna cost too.
Okay, so is that something that you want to know before you even purchase the property?
I would think so, yes.
Okay, so before buying, we have a new little bullet point, is that you'd want to know exactly how much it's going to be to separate it. Because if it comes down to being an absurd amount or something like that, or not even possible perhaps, that this property would not be beneficial to your use if you cannot have the garage.
Yeah.
Okay. So the garage is one of your big positives, and without the garage, this is not a property that you'd be wanting to invest in?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I'd like to just kind of go over what we've addressed so far and just reiterate a little bit on the agreements that you've made so far, and we can address anything again if you'd like to renegotiate, or you guys can both agree. And then I do have a few questions on stuff that I just want to make sure that I've written down correctly. So, before buying the home, we would like to have a home inspection. That's something you both are willing to pay for, need be. So the first step that we have is to ask the homeowner to pay for this home inspection. And the second step, if he refuses to pay for the full inspection, because this is something that we don't know the price of yet, is to ask the homeowner to pay 33%. And you would cover 33%, and so would you. And if he refuses, again, to pay 33%, that it's something you two would split the cost of. Okay, also, before purchasing the home, you would like to know if it is possible and how much it would cost to split the garage meter and to have separate bills, both electric and gas, on the garage and the house, so that it can be strictly your property. Okay, and so it's kind of an ultimatum at that point where you would like to know if it's something that you can afford to pay for a new meter, and that if it's something that's out of your range, that this isn't a property that you would see a benefit from as much as you think it to be at this point, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so after the home inspection, there is most likely going to be things that need to be renovated, and I think you each decided that you would each find one bid for every item that needed to be completed. I think our example was roofing, and so you would find a roofer to get a bid, and you would find one as well, and that you would decide who was going to do the work collaboratively based off the price and the workmanship of that person, perhaps. One
Yeah, I definitely wanna see some references.
references. Okay, that's something that I can take note of. Is that for the businesses that you do get bids from, that you are familiar with their work, perhaps, and that you know that they're certified. I know we mentioned that earlier. Business references. He's certified. Remind me again how we decided that the renovations were going to be paid for. Was it that you were going to pay for the renovations, being that you have the financial capability to do that now, and it's just something that would be paid back at a later time?
You could look at some of that. I could pay a big portion of it.
Okay, so it is
But I would
something.
like to see a little money going in on that side too, to keep his interest.
Well, how about this? How about you pay upfront 80% of all the renovation costs, and Tanner will pay initially 20% out of pocket, and that he will meet you an additional 10%, making it 70-30 or 60-40 perhaps, and that he can pay you back later, and we'll just kind of keep track. So that initially you'll be paying 80% of all renovations, and he'll be paying 20%, but that he vows to pay an additional 20% once he has the time, so that you'll be splitting renovation costs 60-40. Is that something you guys would be willing to?
Yeah, we could look at that.
Okay, so that's just something you guys will really have to be on top of keeping track of. You could perhaps set up a table of the renovations and the costs and how much everything is, so that you can have a system of what's owed to whom and at what time. Okay, just a little bit on the down payment and purchasing the house in general. We talked about having monthly payments, Tanner, and having a smaller price during the first year of you being a rental property owner and setting up your plowing business, but that once you're established and you have, more money coming in, that you could make larger payments. And that's just something that we decided wouldn't be an exact amount, but perhaps a percentage of your paycheck once we really have it set up on how it's going to work.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about, or are we clear in our negotiation?
I think we're pretty clear.
Pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's getting into a business and that you're relying on everybody else paying you on time, and if they don't pay you on time, you still gotta pay your bills.
Okay, so is that something that you're well aware of? Is that there will be people that you won't get your rent in time, and if you're in a financial pinch and you're just waiting on rent money to pay him back, that's
snow, not necessarily rent, but the snow removal
okay,
deals, cause some of those guys wait
till the
a
end of the
month or
winter or
or
something.
so on, and then they tend to pay you.
Okay. So even, this is a little bit beyond just negotiating this rental property, but that you're investing in, businesses that rely on payment that are up to just whoever, whenever, however, and that's something that you'll have to clearly establish with all of your future clients, that payments need to be made on a certain time, and that a system almost needs to be made up for you to do that in order for you to be able to pay him back.
Yes, I will set up a system for that. So,
Okay, is that something you guys could work out collaboratively at a future date, maybe once he starts working, is that you'll help him arrange a payment business or like a contract with all of your clients that, whether it be a direct deposit system or that you have their credit card numbers on file and you can just charge them at the time being so that you get your payments on time and that you're not relying on checks in the mail whenever it's convenient for them.
yes.
Okay, I think that's something good that we're able to talk about.
The screen's supposed to be on.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Okay, I think we clear. I feel like there was just one more thing that I wanted to clear up, and I'm a little lost in my notes that I just want to double check everything real quick.
Okay.
And just go over that we have our home inspection, who's going to pay for it. We know about the garage meter is kind of an ultimatum for you in that if the price is out of,
Gas and electric.
if the gas and electric is something that's not able to be split, that maybe this property isn't something that you're looking to invest in so much, not just your money, but your time, because you won't have the garage space to start up a plowing business for the next winter. So bids will have to be made by each of you, not personally, but you will each find contractors for all the various renovations that will need to be made. I know one thing that we talked about that I just want to bring up is in renovations, Tanner mentioned earlier about adding another bathroom, and that may be something that, do you think you could get I think we talked about, Tanner, is widen your range of renters and that you'd be able to have larger families in there and maybe get a little bit more money per month by having another bathroom. But again, that is another expense. And what do you feel about, investing in an additional shower or half bath in the basement?
I guess that's where you're gonna get the inspection to find out if that can even be done,
Okay,
and that would be the
so I
biggest
can
deal.
make note of
Yeah.
that, and that's something we could have the inspector specifically look at, so to make sure it doesn't get passed over.
Or a plumbing contractor
Okay.
might have to come in and
Okay, so that's something you guys would be willing to pay for. Maybe split the cost of that as well to have a plumbing contractor come in and
give a bid.
give a bid.
I think a lot of times they'll give bids, they'll come in and give you a bid for nothing.
Okay. Okay, and then just know that a second bathroom may or may not be worth it, and that's something you can find out based off your bid. Is that, or
And
the
how much
plumbing?
it's gonna cost, how much all the renovations are gonna cost, whether we go through with it or not too. That's another,
Yeah, that is true. So, I think one thing that we could just talk about real quick is that all of your renovation bids need to be done before you decide, well, do you purchase the house and then start getting bids on renovations, or is this something that
no, I think you gotta have all that stuff looked at ahead of time.
okay, so that's something that'll have to be done. So I'll kind of set a timeline here.
Might be some stuff that has to be done before we can even buy it.
That's true. Okay. Well, that's good. So just to set a timeline, we'll have the home inspection. This is all before buying. So home inspection, bids for renovations, kind of a grand total on how much your renovations are going to cost. And then at that point, you can each ask yourself, well, yes, is this going to be worth it? Or are these renovations going to add to our monthly, the monthly value of this home? Or is, whether or not this house has is
Well, if the house is valued here and you can't put more money into it than what it's worth,
mhm.
I mean, it's in that area, it wouldn't be beneficial to have
Okay,
the
so
nicest
that's
house on the block because where it sits.
okay. So that's something we can address is that, just as an example, just like spitballing is like spending the money on new countertops or new cabinets isn't really worth it just for the location. Like you said, the location's great for renters and that you have a lot of schools nearby and stuff like that, but just in the neighborhood that you're in, like you said, a busy neighborhood, smaller homes, and that, you really can't increase, there's like a cap on the price that this home is worth, and that's something that I think you guys will be able to answer once you find out a total cost of renovations. Okay, so then at the point of getting a bid on all your renovations, you'll be able to ask yourself, yes, this is something that we'd like to continue with, and then no. And if no, then you'll probably continue to look for another home and kind of do the same deal because it sounds like it's something that you both could benefit from and have a good little project to work on for the next couple years and have a lifetime investment possibly. And then if the point you do say yes, this is something that we come to the point where paying for renovations will be 20% you and 80% you, and that Tanner would pay in another 20% to make it 40-60 at some point through his monthly payment plans. And that the garage spot, being that the meter and gas and electric would be able to be separate from the house, is that something that would not be included in the rental property. That would be Tanner's property, but that you would be able to use it need be until Tanner has the equipment and capital that he needs the space more than you would need the space. So
For his business, yeah.
for his business, yes. Okay, so I think we are set, and I'll get a formal agreement planned out of all of our negotiations, so you guys are clear on what you are agreeing to. Are both of you understanding of the agreements that you've made and what responsibilities you need to uphold?
Yes, I'm aware.
Okay, so I can prepare a formal document and I'll have you guys sign that as soon as it gets made up. I just want to remind you again that everything here today is confidential and I'm really happy that we were able to reach an agreement, and I hope you guys feel pretty good about where we're at right now and everything like that. So thank you for both being very respectful and understanding and patient through this process.
Yes, and I'd like to thank you for your help, for us reaching an agreement today.
Yes.
Thanks for helping us work everything out.
All right, thank you so much.
The end.
Good,